Chapter 1 of Eaternal Nocturnal is called The Insomniac. Eve talks to her mother about having trouble falling asleep. She tries various methods to help her with her insomnia, but none of them work. A shadowy figure enters her room that night, and we enter Eve's dream, where she's floating in a bed in the sky. She sees a shirtless man, but once they make eye contact, he quickly leaves. Day abruptly wakes up and wonders if that girl could see him. Chapter 2 is called A Disagreeable Face. Eve wakes up feeling great and well-rested. We learn Eve's lost several jobs because of her chronic insomnia. Eve meets up with her friend Cherry, who is a YouTube influencer. For a commission, Cherry offers Eve the opportunity to sing songs that Cherry will lip-sync to for her YouTube channel. Cherry's manager, Mr. Lee, arrives and sits near them. After some hesitation, Eve agrees to give her voice to Cherry's channel. Walking away, Eve bumps into Day on the street. Chapter 3 is called Chances. Cherry excitedly talks to Eve about their new arrangement. That night, Eve can't fall asleep. Tappy and Day show up, and Day eats her dream. Chapter 4 is called Beautiful Dreamer. We start with a flashback of young Eve dreaming of being a singer, but being told by her parents that she should focus on her studies instead. She chose sociology as her major in college instead of music. These flashbacks quickly evolve into a nightmare where Eve's a part of a circus while the song Beautiful Dreamer plays. Eve falls off of a tightrope when Day, in his dream eater form, catches her. Chapter 5 is called The Dream Eater. We learn that when Day falls asleep, he turns into his dream eater form and eats dreams. But recently, he's been waking up unsatisfied until he ate Eve's dream. He woke up the next day feeling great. And when he visited her a second night, they both woke up feeling amazing. Chapter 6 is called Delivery Boy. We meet Day's roommates, his cousin Alex, who is a fan of Cherry's YouTube channel, Clark, and Benji. In an effort to avoid his brother Jay, Day leaves early for work. He typically doesn't visit the same person more than once, but he plans to visit Eve for the third night in a row. Chapter 7 is called The Visitor. Eve wakes up refreshed, remembering seeing Day in her dream but not knowing who or what he was. She's visited by Cherry's manager, Mr. Lee, who has come to deliver the contract. He sternly reminds her that the agreement is classified information. Eve's mom calls to check on her and asks about work. Eve lies and says she got a promotion, not mentioning her ghost singing gig with Cherry. Day arrives before Eve's asleep, and it seems like she can see him when she's awake too. Chapter 8 is called Tethered. It turns out Eve was swatting at a fly, not seeing Day in his dream eater form after all. He returns the next several nights, but she's never asleep. One night, Day is approached by another dream eater named V, who has untethered himself from his human body and stays in dream eater form permanently. He tries to convince Day to do the same, but Day isn't interested in that. Day visits Eve again, and she's finally asleep. He consumes her dream and finds her by a tree. She sees him and says, "It's you again." Chapter 9 is called The Deal. Day thinks about the only other person who has been able to recognize him in his dreams, and we see the back of a head with brown hair that looks like his mother. Day tells Eve he's a dream eater. Eve realizes he's the reason she wakes up well-rested and asks if she can keep seeing him. Eventually, Day agrees to the deal of visiting her every night. Chapter 10 is called Distance. Day is determined to keep up his end of the deal without getting attached to Eve. Cherry and Eve hang out with Mr. Lee watching them. Mr. Lee pulls Eve aside and suggests that Eve distances herself from Cherry so people don't find out about their arrangement. He also tells Eve to delete a video she made of herself singing years ago. Chapter 11 is called Recluse. Day continues to ignore calls and messages from his brother. His roommates encourage him to give his brother a call. At the end of the chapter, it's revealed that Cherry's manager, Mr. Lee, is Day's brother. Chapter 12 is called Black and White Dreams. We learn that Day doesn't know how he became a dream eater. In a flashback, a young Day tells Jay, but Jay doesn't believe him. When Jay dreams, it's always in black and white. In the present, Day visits Eve's dream where she's on a boat in the ocean. Chapter 13 is called Not Your Friend. Eve's voice is gone in her dream until Day shows up and starts talking to her. She asks for Day's name, but he's reluctant to share it. Finally, he tells her to call him N. Chapter 14 is called Middleman. Eve uploads audio files of herself singing onto a USB and gives it directly to Jay. Day meets up with his brother for dumplings. Jay has a delivery job for Day to deliver the USB from Eve to Cherry and from Cherry to Eve. Jay says if Day takes this job and all goes well, he'll be able to give Day something he's always wanted. Chapter 15 is called What's Lost, What's Found. Jay is offering to provide proper therapy for their mom if Day takes this delivery job. Apparently, doctors have diagnosed their mother with early onset dementia. Day accepts the job, and in a flashback, we see Day's mother giving young Day a plush toy of Tappy, the tapir, calling it a bedtime buddy. Day's mother hasn't been responsive for years. The chapter ends with Day showing up at Eve's door, surprised to see her. Chapter 16 is called Familiar. Eve doesn't recognize Day in his human form. She asks for his number before he leaves. Later, when Eve is on FaceTime with Cherry, she receives an interview for a job. Chapter 17 is called Breaking Promises. Day is stressed. He doesn't want to grow attached to Eve, and he does not want to be seeing her in his Dream Eater form in her dreams and in his human form as well. The Dream Eater V creeps up on Day as he's talking to himself out loud. V wants to share about the dreams he's eaten recently, but Day reminds him of boundaries and leaves. Day visits his mother, who is being taken care of by his aunt. He consumes her dream, and within that dream, she can see him. She cheerfully asks him to wake up his brother for breakfast.